Hello, hello, and welcome. It is Laura Haykel here from Uplift to Uplevel, and I am so excited to have Bari Tessler with us this morning. Welcome to the call, Bari.
Thank you so much, Laura. I'm so happy to be here. Hi, everyone.
Wonderful. And Barry has had a full and diverse life as a fempreneur and now a mompreneur.
Mm.
Barry has a lot of experience in the personal development realm and psychotherapy, working with couples and individuals, and also working in the realms of money consciousness, healing old money beliefs, stories, patterns, and really stepping into empowerment around money so that we can have a more expansive and graceful journey as we
Yeah.
build our abundance and prosperity. So
Yeah.
this is a subject that is near and dear to my heart. I've been on my own
Mm.
transformational money and abundance journey in my own life. I am a fempreneur and a mompreneur as well. I'm a single mom, and so it's been a very
Mm.
wild and wonderful adventure to learn how to monetize my gifts so that I can have the flexibility that I need to, be a single mom and be available for my daughter as well.
Yes.
So I'd love to just hear, where did you really get started with your entrepreneurial journey, Barry?
For me, my 20s were all about knowing really clearly I wanted to be a therapist, a psychotherapist, and choosing a graduate program that Naropa University that had somatic psychology. So it had a body-centered psychotherapy approach. So really my 20s were just steeped in doing my own work
Mm,
and working in hospice and leading authentic movement groups for young women to help them into the transition into their womanhood, and just really doing my own deep work in my 20s. And at some point leaving school and the school loan coming due and realizing, wait a second, like they never taught us anything about how to have a relationship to money, how to deal with all the emotions and reactions and sensations and projections that we put on our money story and this thing called money.
mm-hmm.
Let alone what about a private practice and the bookkeeping of it and the marketing of it and all the practical pieces, and what are all the systems and the tools and practices to be applying to creating a practice. So it was such an obvious missing piece for me.
Mm-hmm.
We studied every single topic under the sun, every other major life area: bodies, food, sensuality, sexuality, God, spirit, everything. And so for me, I remember that point. I was working in the nonprofit world with a master's degree, doing my authentic movement groups on the side, doing overnight hospice shifts. There was a time where I
Wow.
had two or three different jobs so that I could break through this money ceiling that I had at that time. I
Mm-hmm.
remember it was $2,000. That was what I was trying to break through, in my 20s. And I remember I wanted to buy organic food. And I remember thinking, well, on my nonprofit salary right now, I am not able to do that. And
Mm.
it felt crazy to me, that I couldn't do self-care to the level that I felt I needed to in order to do my work.
Yeah.
And so that combined with the huge student loan, there was just a big wake-up call. And for me, I decided to take a little detour and learn everything I could about money management and bookkeeping. My community thought I had gone off the deep end. They were like, what a strange detour. I was literally reading accounting manuals and Quicken and QuickBooks manuals before bed.
Oh my
So
gosh.
my husband, who was then my honey, he's still my honey, he was my boyfriend, was looking over at me going, "Oh my, what where did my girlfriend go?"
Yeah.
But it just was such a missing piece, and it really felt so empowering to me to learn all of this stuff. And then it was really, so I started a bookkeeping business, and I started doing
Wow.
therapists and coaches, and artist bookkeeping, and it was amazing. They could care less what my credentials were. They didn't even know I had a master's in psychology. And I learned so much about them by looking at their numbers, doing their numbers, seeing their patterns.
Mm.
It was really an honor, to get in there and to see what's really going on. And then really it was at the age of 32 for me. So I consider myself on some level a late bloomer, but then I know that that's ridiculous. You know, we
Sure.
all, right? We all
Sure.
grow and
It's just a
evolve and mature.
story. Just a
It's just a
story.
story,
Yeah.
exactly. But there was something really powerful for me about 32, 33.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when it became really clear. It was time to start my own business. I was really never made to, to work for anyone else.
Yep.
I was born into a family of entrepreneurs. I had that drive. I had that chutzpah. I had the desire. I had the perseverance. I just,
You had the
I had the
mojo.
bravery, even though it was terrifying. I knew that I could. So it really, that was a time when I started my business. I call my work now more the art of money.
Okay.
But back in the day, I called it conscious bookkeeping. And so in 2001, I started a whole financial therapy practice.
Wow.
Where I taught people bookkeeping. I trained them how to do it. I still was doing bookkeeping for them. I started doing financial therapy work. I wanted to shift more into really integrating all of my previous deep, training work on really what is our money story, what are our patterns, how do we heal that, how do we forgive, how do we bring in ritual, all of that deeper stuff into all these practical systems and tools that I surprisingly fell in love with, and all of that merged into the conscious bookkeeping method. So it's always been a combination of money healing, money practices, and money maps. And the money maps part is all the visioning and goal setting and dreaming and all of that. So basically, it was that year when I said, all right, I think I'm an entrepreneur. I think I really have this in me. And I literally started out as a one-woman show. And then within a few years, I had other women coming to me saying, I've been in the corporate world as an accountant, and I'm also doing yoga trainings on the side. I'm getting my master's in psychology, and I'm putting myself through school by doing bookkeeping. I was starting to get all these women that were integrating the same things that I was, and they wanted to be on my team. And I looked around, and I was like, oh, I have a team? Okay. I do a lot of thumbs up because my son is 4, almost 5. So,
Yeah.
we do a lot of thumbs up. And suddenly I do this gesture, I know, whatever. But so I was like, I have a team. And so I started creating a team. I was the financial therapist. I had my bookkeeping trainers. I had my financial coaches in my team. And I was overseeing it all. I had a business partner. And so I got to have 7 full years of running my business and, putting in, as you know, at the beginning, I didn't have a child back then. So I put in 40 to 60 hours happily.
Oh, and probably easily.
Easily. It's in my 30s, easily. And then I turned 38 and I woke up in that year and really surprised myself. Although it just felt really natural. I surprised my husband, let's say. I woke up in my 38th year and I said, I want to have a child. And it's going to be a boy, and his name is Noah. And that's what's next. And I had to drop little hints because we had been together for 7 years and basically signed an invisible contract. We're going to have a wonderful life, but without children.
Wow.
And literally, I just woke up saying I had done a lot of what I needed to do, and now my very next step, that was it on my path. And that's how I listen. I get really clear information and guidance, and I really, really connect with my intuition. And I like to ask deeply what's next and listen to it and follow that. And so by the end of that year, we did 6 weeks of therapy, and I sat there quiet. And I never sit quiet when I really want something. I don't. It's like I usually I'm really soft, but I can especially with my husband, when I want something, I sat in therapy quiet, and he did amazing work, and we conceived Noah a few hours before our last therapy session.
Wow.
And then so that was obviously, as you know, that was my moment to shift from being, as you call a fempreneur, I also call a creative entrepreneur, into the Mamapreneur journey.
Yeah.
And to be honest, the first few months I was like, I'm not going back into my work. I'm in love. I'm in
Yeah.
love. And the other, I had my child 5 months before my 40th birthday. So,
Wow.
I'm the voice of the older mommy. I'm the
Mm-hmm.
voice of I had 7 years to create a wonderful foundation. I know lots of mommy friends creating their foundation as they have their little ones.
Yep.
It's a different scenario.
Yeah. Oh,
My
completely different.
right, right. I'm the older mom, and I had 7 years, and then, but I really was like, I'm not going back in. I'm in love, but we're a dual entrepreneurial family,
Mm-hmm.
and so at 4 months, I needed to find a way to come back in, and the questions that I started asking were very different than before when I was working 40, 50, 60 hours a week all
Oh
the
yeah.
time,
Oh yeah.
driving. Right, I was living in California. I'm now back in Boulder, Colorado.
Oh
Um,
nice.
have been since I've been pregnant. But in California, literally everything's within 3 hours. I used to teach in San Francisco one night, Oakland one night, Santa Cruz the next night.
Mm-hmm.
I was teaching and traveling everywhere. When as soon as we got pregnant, and we decided to move back to Boulder so that everything was in 10, 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And I also 4 months in, the questions that I was asking was, or the commitments to myself were: number one, I'm not leaving my house for my work. I'm not. I'm not. Number two, I'm going to work 10 hours, and I'm going to see, what do I love the most that I can do in those 10 hours, and what's the most lucrative. And I don't think I asked those side by side. It seems obvious, but I was more into, what do I love? What's next? What's calling me? This time it was really, what do I love the most and what's the most lucrative? And so I did my group coaching program, which for me, teaching in group formats, a telecourse, online was my most favorite thing to do at this time and the most lucrative. And for me, there was a journey of, I was completely offline. Everything was local for many years.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started getting a national audience, and I started doing telecourses, but I had only done telecourses for about 2 years.
Okay.
And so when Noah came right before my 40th birthday and I transitioned into being a Mamapreneur, it was like nothing local, nothing. I'm not leaving my house. Everything's going to be online. And I had to really quickly kind of get current and meet up with all these women that, were thriving online. And so the first 2 years of Noah's life, I wanted simple. I wanted to not challenge myself with my work. I was not challenged enough. I mean, sleep deprived. That
Oh
was my
yeah.
biggest. I didn't have a sleeper.
Oh
So,
yeah.
I was in love, and I loved that, and I wasn't sleeping,
Yep.
So,
Yep.
and so I just wanted simple, and I wanted to, but I still wanted to be supporting my community, but not growing it. I went into one of those phases where you get smaller, and people are always like, you got to grow, you got to grow. And I was like, no, there are some phases that we need to ask, what phase of life are we in? What's really the best for the whole family dynamic, for me and my child? And it was being home, working 10 hours. And I worked 10 hours for 2 years. 10 hours a week, 10 hours a week
Yep.
for 2 years. And, and then I started sleeping a little bit. Really, I think it wasn't until age 3 and now my son will go to bed at 9 or 10 and sleep until 9 or 10.
Yep.
He's on my sleep schedule, which is, they're the thumbs. It's so we're finally sleeping. We have been for a few years. So, but that was a pivotal moment because I got the fire into my butt to start growing again.
Yeah.
And I wound up putting together my telecourse. I did a live telecourse version. I recorded a 6-month group with 60 people.
Wow.
I did a whole workbook, 150-page workbook. I created my own home study and produced it and put that out in the world. And that was amazing, and so that was my next step. And I like to do things in smaller increments. And then recently I took a big leap. And just the last part of this story is just that, so I went to do home study, and then I stopped my telecourses for a year. Again, always checking in. Where's my energy? What are my most favorite things right now? What's shifting and changing? How can I serve the best? Well, also at this point, I think my biggest, and taking care of myself. At this point, I've learned so much about, I say no more than ever now. I have gotten better at healthy boundaries. I know what I'm really good at, and I know what I suck at. And in the past, I used to just still think I needed to pretend. And whether that's hitting my 40s, I'm 44 now, or whether that was having my son, it matured me to a place where I just had to get really clear with boundaries, with yeses and nos, and not pretend anymore, and not do things that I'm not so good at and then feel like crap about myself, really go after what I do really well. And of course, I've added a team back in.
Great.
Where when Noah first came, I got rid of my entire team. I let go of my business partner, my 2 assistants, really, really went back to one woman show.
Wow.
And then, and I wanted to do everything myself again. And I just wanted to begin again. And then 2 years in, did the home study. 3 years in, started, every year that Noah ages, it's like we get more energy, we're sleeping more, my capacity grows, and my maturity grows. So basically the last part of the story, which is so amazing for me, is I was then adding back in my group coaching programs and doing a hybrid of the group coaching and home study. And I was getting about 40, 50 people each group, but it was launching. It was a few times a year I was launching. Then my husband says he's leaving his job and he wants to start his own thing called the Tech Husband. So, wow. which is wonderful, because I've been an entrepreneur for, 11, 12 years now, and he goes in and out of trying it, but he's really good at working for people. And so, but he's trying to still figure out if that's him, So we had a year last year where I'm opening a course, then he's launching his Tech Husband program, then I'm opening my course, then he's launching. It was, honestly, it was really crazy, and it was really intense, and it was really stressful. And so by the end of the year, I just felt like something really needs to shift. I didn't know if I believed that it could, but I started saying, I cannot call this a launch anymore. I'm calling it an opening. And I told my whole team, I said, you're not allowed to use the word launch. It's called an opening. And we're not calling it a sales page. It's a program page. It's an invitation. Yes, and yes. I really wanted to see if I could shift the energy and do something different. And all of a sudden I got this vision right as I was approaching my 44th birthday of it's time for a year-long program. I've done every format imaginable. And then suddenly it was like my 11th year, and I realized I'm ready for a year-long program. I have a feeling my community is. I just downloaded the entire, I already had the whole curriculum. My home study program was in 11 chapters. So I literally mapped out 11 months and just asked myself, who are the guest teachers on money and Enneagram, money in couples, money in taxes, money in choosing your bookkeeping system. It's my teachings woven throughout the entire thing, for women, couples, creative entrepreneurs, that's all being woven in. But I needed these. I knew it was a bigger vision, and the other pieces of it is I wanted to reach a much larger community. Yeah. And I got the hit that I got the sense that it was really time to lower my prices, because I'd always done mid-price pricing. Okay. And that was great. So for a 3-month course, I would charge $600 or $700 or and I just got the feeling that it was really time to lower my price. It doesn't mean lower my value, lower my pricing, because I had a sense I would reach a much, much larger community. So the number I got was $88 a month. And I even had to question that, like $88 a month. I don't like to play around with numbers. I like $500, $650. I don't like to do that marketing stuff, right? But when I really questioned it, $88 was the right number. I loved it. It reminded me of infinity symbols. And I was never into like the spiritual part of numbers, but suddenly, I couldn't help myself. It was like 44, I'm 44 with a 4-year-old son. I'm in my 11th year of business. There's 11 months. Like, it's $88. I just was
Yeah.
going crazy with the numbers. So I made it $88 a month. And we opened it up in January this year. And it was like a steady stream of people signing up. It was relaxed. It was calm. It was filled with love. It was a completely different experience inside of my body, and from whatever the feedback that I was getting from everyone. And I got 320 people
Oh my
signing
gosh,
up.
that's amazing.
So I went from 40, 50 people to over 300 people.
Good for you.
And basically, it's my favorite business model and teaching model, and the most sustainable business model to date. So as my son is 4, gonna be 5, I have shifted into just a really wonderful business model that, helps me be with him, helps me take care of my body. I did a whole cleanse that finally got me back to my body from 5 years ago. It's only taken me 5 years, but that's okay, right?
Absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
there's no timeline, and
Right.
and I'd love to highlight just a couple of the things that you're saying. But first, can you just tell us again, what is the name of the course, and where can people find out more about it when it launches next year?
Yeah, so if you go to baritessler.com, and my name is spelled BARITESSLER, go to baritessler.com, and you can check out my Art of Money program page. And right now we're just like, getting everyone all excited. Just you can sign up to get on my list. I'm opening up this fall.
Great.
So it's going to start in January. And I'm going to do a really beautiful lead-in series called Money Memoirs, Tales from the Heart, where I'm going to feature a lot of colleagues, but also a lot of my students.
Great.
And sharing their money stories, the good stuff. We all have money shame, what we're working on,
Yep.
challenging things we've moved through. So I'm going to do a really beautiful money memoir series starting in October. And that's also going to go right along with the opening for the Art of Money, and people can start enrolling then. And you'll be able to begin, but it really officially begins January 15th. And I do a little bit of financial therapy as well with women and couples. That's a very small thing that I do. Mostly it is the year-long program, but I do have that private financial therapy for the right, for the right match. So that's where you can
Wow.
find me, is over there. Yeah.
Awesome. And are you on
Yeah.
Twitter as well, Barry?
I am, but I'm so new. I'm still trying to figure it out. I'm a big Facebook girl.
Okay.
So if you want to know see pictures of my son and business stuff and my hubby, it's all, I don't have a separate business page. It's all personal business combined. That's how I like to do it. I'm on
Awesome.
Facebook. I'm on Facebook every day, and Twitter. I'm like peeking over there trying to figure it out. But,
Okay.
so yeah. So
Well,
Barry Tessler on Facebook, on both of them. Yeah.
okay. Wonderful. And I love your website, by the way. I remember when I
Yeah.
first came across it months ago when I was in the process of developing my own website. And I just loved the energy that comes through your site. You're so authentic, and you just are a bright, shining light in the world. And I could feel that. I could just feel your truth coming through your website. I was really inspired. And I just love how your journey has unfolded. You were so immersed in personal development work for yourself and for others in your 20s, and then you had this aha moment, and it was clear to you that a shift needed to be made, and a pathway needed to be created for more
Yeah.
money consciousness and support around, how do you deal with student loans and debt, and deal with all that old stuff that you picked up along the way about money and abundance and lack consciousness and all of those things. And that you had the sacred 7 years to build a practice before you had any children, so that you really had the time and space free and clear to work as many hours as you felt you wanted to work or needed to work. And how it just feels like, life was just opening up for you, and people were coming in, and it seems like there was just all of this synchronicity. And then this divine clarity that you're so aligned and in tune with your knowing, which is such a gift and such a great message, to just listen to your knowing, receive that knowing, and then you wanted to have a baby. That was clear. That was the clear next step. And in that co-creative collaboration with your husband, just coming to that clarity and coming into alignment in your relationship to say yes and open up to receive your little king into your world. And then this next divine clarity of, this is not a building phase. This is just really a letting go, a nurturing, just taking on as much as I feel I can take on comfortably, releasing the team, moving into the space of a one-woman show again, and giving yourself again that sacred time to just be a mom and deal with all of the transition that having a baby brings into your world, including that sleep deprivation. I can really relate to that. When my daughter was younger, I mean, she was 4 before she started sleeping through the night, and it was tough, and it really alters your reality, and in some pretty significant ways, and then how you just really opened up and felt into what was next, and what was next was starting to expand again. And I just am so honored to receive all of this insight and wisdom, and just hearing about your story. I know there are so many women who will be able to relate to it, and ahas that will come from hearing about your journey and the way that you've navigated. I just am so honored and thankful to have you here with us today. I want to thank you so much for your time, and what a pleasure it is to get to know you. A mutual colleague, Sage Levine, is the one who kind of said, talk to Bari. I think you'd really, get on with her well, and you're both moms and you're both doing your thing as mompreneurs. So I'm so thankful for Sage as well to just, give me that lead in and guide me towards you. Your year-long program sounds fantastic, and it sounds like something that I'd really love to learn more about. So I'm actually going to go and sign up for your mailing list. And and I just want to thank you again for spending your time with us today and sharing your story.
Thank you so much for having me, Laura. I love that whole overview that you just did of all the really key important points along the way of all the learning and all of that. Yes. And thank you, Sage, for introducing us as well. And my hubby did my website. That was a little gift he gave me. Even though he doesn't know design, he gave me that as a gift. He does all my back end stuff and all that, So anyway, so that's also why you felt some good energy when you go over to my site. So everyone, I just really welcome you to, come on over, because I do talk about the Mamapreneur stuff. It's one of the main topics, along with the money healing work and the money practices and the money maps. I talk about being a creative entrepreneur, and I just wrap them all together. So there's a lot of, I really love, I create an article about every 2 weeks, and it's deep.
Great.
And it's really good content. So there's a lot of good stuff over there when you join my community. So Laura, thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure to connect with you.
Absolutely. And please check out Bari Tessler. It's Bari Tessler, BaritTessler.com. Also Bari Tessler on Facebook, The Art of Money. And this is Miss Laura Haykel at Uplift to Uplevel. And just keep on shining, keep on saying yes, and tuning in to that divine knowing that we all have deep within us. Thanks again, and ciao for now. See you next time.
Bye for now. Ciao for now. See you.